We traveled to Paris, and the first thing we did was go to Champs-Élysées. We crossed the street, and someone from behind me asked if I could take a picture of her. I told her, "Give me 1 second, I just want to check on my mother, and I'll be right back." And in that moment when I turned around to look at my mom, she was gone. She disappeared.
October 2019. It was supposed to be the vacation of a lifetime. Yasmeen Kadan decided to take her mother, Lutfia Zabad, on a trip to Paris, the city of love and romance. It was the first time that the pair had ever traveled abroad and left their hometown of Baka al-Gharbia, a small Arab town in Israel. But what began as a beautiful vacation quickly turned into a nightmare. 54-year-old Lutfia went missing on the world's most famous avenue, Champs-Élysées.
I got so scared. I didn't know what to do. I started to cry and yell. We were with a big group, and I went into the hotel, and I wanted to hit everybody there because of what had happened. You want to explode and to do everything you can to get your mom back. Nobody was listening to me. I told them, "Get up, don't go out, please help me find my mom." But nobody cared. Nobody helped me.
Yasmeen scoured the streets, desperately searching for her mother by foot. She was certain that her mom had simply gotten lost and would eventually show up. But after the first day of trying to hunt her down, she went to the police station and opened a missing persons case. Little did she know, the search for her mother would end up lasting over 2 years.
I stayed in France for 2 months. I didn't want to go home without my mom. It was a nightmare. It's the feeling that you're missing a part of your body, that something has disappeared from you. My mother was my whole world.
After 3 months, Yasmeen had no choice but to go back home to Israel because her visa had run out. But from there, she kept up relentless pressure on the Israeli government to try and help find her mother, and she continued to try and mobilize Israelis living in Paris to continue the search. Then, one day in November, she received a message on Facebook that would change her life. A French-Israeli woman named Smadar Bustan had seen one of her posts begging for help, and she decided to reach out.
I stayed away from the first post because it seemed strange to me. But when I saw Yasmin's second post, she was begging so much for help that I thought, how could it be that nobody is helping her? So I answered her. That same evening, she called me on Facebook Messenger and began to tell me what had happened. And about an hour after that, I put up a post on a Facebook forum with 500,000 people living in Paris. And some woman immediately responded to me in a very surprising way. She said, "I saw her 2 weeks ago. It was already 12:30 a.m., but Yasmin began to beg me. Please, Hasmadar, go and see if she is there." We didn't even know each other, but I got into my car and I arrived at a very bougie plaza. There were coffee shops and everything was surprisingly open. She wasn't there anymore. People told me that Lutfia had recently left, but that she had been there for about 3 weeks. That's how everything began. This was how I connected to Yasmin, and I started to help her.
Smadar gave me so much strength. I told her just once, "My mom is still alive, and she will come home." And in response, she told me, "I will help you until the end."
Over the course of the next 2 years, Smadar and Yasmeen worked side by side to find Lutfia, even though they were thousands of miles apart. Smadar would reach out to local French rescue organizations and police on behalf of Yasmeen to see if anybody had seen Lutfia.
Everything you can imagine went through our heads. That she had been kidnapped, that she had run away from the family. We received so many shocking reports of sightings.
Despite all of the challenges along the way, there were sightings of Lutfia that gave Yasmeen and Smadar hope, but also caused despair at the same time, especially because Lutfia suffers from mental health issues.
At one point in the beginning of the search, she showed up to the hospital in Paris with an ambulance, injured in her head. She was very tired. They admitted her, and they took her passport, and from that moment, she became an anonymous person. And the second that an anonymous person is thrown back onto the street without an ID, that's it. It's basically a lost cause. It appears the hospital staff didn't properly report her in the system, and you see her in security camera footage leaving the hospital in a pink outfit with her bag. She had no money. She had no ID. You see her standing outside looking at the Eiffel Tower and trying to decide which way to go, and that's it.
Then, in 2021, Yasmeen and Smadar received terrible news. After a 1.5 years of searching for Lutfia, the French police decided to close her case. To make matters worse, local humanitarian organizations began to make it clear that they believed Lutfia had purposely decided to disappear.
One of the central issues we were dealing with is that there is a law in France that says that if a person wants to disappear, it is their right to do so. And all of the search and rescue organizations will protect that person. That means that even if they find them, it is against the law for them to reach out to the police or the family to let them know that they were found.
But no matter what anybody said, Yasmeen could not shake the feeling that her mother was still trying to make her way home.
I always felt that my mother was alive. I never gave up. So many people told me my mom was dead. Sometimes they even blamed me.
In March of 2022, after 2.5 years of searching, Lutfia finally showed up.
She simply asked for help one day. She gave her full name to an organization made up of social workers who help emergency medical services deal with people living on the street. She said, "My name is Lutfia. I want to return home." They reached out to Yasmeen.
All of a sudden, I get a call. They told me someone is going to call you from Paris. I asked them, "Did something happen to my mom? Did you find her?" They said, "Yes. Your mother is at the police station." I said, "What? Are you guys serious?" I called Smadar immediately.
I was in Normandy, 4 hours from Paris. I said to myself, now that they finally found her, how can it be that I'm so far away and I can't go and pick her up immediately? I remember I entered the room. She sat there and she was so beautiful, even with those dirty street clothes that she had worn for 2.5 years. And she just gave me a hug, and I hugged her. And that's it. I took her to the car. She had this look on her face as if all of a sudden she realized she was no longer homeless. She was in a normal house with a family and kids, and all of a sudden there was this click.
Within hours of discovering that she had been found, Lutfia's brother Qassem flew to Paris to pick her up from Smadar's house and take her back home to al-Gharbia.
حبيبتي يما يلا روح ارتاحي يما حبيبة كلسي
It's been almost 2 years since Lutfia was found, but it still remains unclear exactly what happened to her during her time missing in Paris. Today, we're going to get some answers in an emotional reunion. Smadar and Yasmeen are meeting each other for the first time, together with Lutfia.
I'm emotional because we are so close. We really got close. It's true. I'm an Israeli Jew who lives in Paris, and she's Muslim Israeli who lives in Baca. But I think our personalities are very similar. We are both feminists. We love people who are straightforward and truthful. And we totally trust one another.
Shalom. אני נראית מצוין, איזה יפה. מה נשמע? בסדר. תודה רבה יפה, נראית בריאה. הכל בסדר? הכל בסדר. הכל בסדר בגללך.
עד עכשיו היא לא יוצאת מהבית.
היא לא יכולה.
לא יוצאת מהבית, כן. אומרת לה, בואי נלך ככה סיבוב בכפר. לא, 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 בבית.
מפחדת לאיבוד.
אני רוצה לתת לך חיבוק. You were with Yasmeen and then all of a sudden you went off to the side.
I don't know what happened to my eyes. I didn't see Yasmeen. I looked everywhere for her, and I couldn't find her. I didn't know where to go. I was in a state of shock about where I was.
Where did you sleep the first night?
I slept on the street, in a garden. I couldn't find my daughter, so I would just keep on searching. I wouldn't sit down. I would just search and search non-stop in circles.
Searching for Yasmeen?
Yes, searching. I tried to find the place where the tour bus dropped us off, but I couldn't find it. It was too far away. I was so scared that somebody would hurt me or rob me on the street.
You wanted to go back home?
Of course. I thought maybe they would eventually find me. But every time I asked for help, they would tell me, if you don't have a passport, there's nothing we can do for you.
Lutfia doesn't give us many details about what she went through while she was lost in Paris. Maybe she doesn't remember, or maybe she doesn't want to remember. But for her family, it doesn't matter. She's finally home safe and sound, and despite the pain of what she went through, there's a silver lining. Her story has brought together two families from totally different backgrounds for life.
To be honest, it feels like we've known each other forever.
Yeah, it's as if we grew up in the same house. She's a part of the family.
את רואה?
אני נורא עצובה, לא באמת, אני נורא עצובה, 2.5 ככה, זה כל כך קשה.
קשה מאוד.
טוב, לפריז את לא חוזרת, לפריז את לא מוזמנת, מצטערת, את לא יכולה לעבוד.
לא, חלאס. לא, חלאס.